Thanks for joining us for this session, Partnerships for the Win. It's a little bit intimidating. I think there's about 200 experts in this room on Partnerships for the Win. They're all leveraging those partnerships now. But we're very, very fortunate to have four really excellent panelists who work on a really everyday basis, partnering across sectors to help eliminate barriers and drive better access to equitable fresh foods. So before introducing themselves, I'll quickly introduce me. I'm Larry Stablein. Through my corporate career, worked in just about all aspects of food and drug retailing, mostly big chains across covering almost all of the United States and Canada. But then in later years, as a consultant, got to work and support a lot of smaller, independently owned grocery stores and not-for-profits as well. So with that, I'm going to ask the panel to introduce themselves, introduce their organizations, and maybe out of the gates just to give their perspective on how they work across sectors, private companies, not-for-profits, government, community organizations, policymakers, et cetera, to drive better access to healthy nutritional food in all of our neighborhoods. So Jason, I'll start with you.
That sounds good. Thank you, Larry, very much. And thank you to GFI and Food Systems for the Future and FMI for hosting this today. Jason Wilson, I lead strategic partnerships for Partnership for Healthier America. So partnerships is in my title, partnerships is in the name of the organization I work for. So I like to do a lot of work on partnerships, obviously, like many of you, like Larry was saying, in the room. And really, our organizational mission shouldn't surprise folks too much. We're advancing equitable access to affordable, nutritious food so that families, no matter their zip code, can lead healthy lives. So that sounds familiar because that's what a lot of us are working on in the room. And as I was thinking about what kind of information I wanted to share, especially up front here, I'm hoping that some of this will be useful to you all in the room. I wanted to talk a little bit more about PHA's work through sort of a structure of collective impact models that we work towards through our work to double produce consumption in all its forms, fresh, frozen, canned. All of it's really healthy, but to try and double produce consumption in all of its forms in cities across the country, and in particular, 15 cities, a geographical focus that we've had. When we're talking about looking at partnerships to help drive forward equitable access to nutritious food, it's often connected to larger, much more complex issues. It's not just about the food in the store being affordable in someone's community. It's often connected to those social determinants of health as well. And so when we think about how we're doing this work together, there's no one organization, there's no one company, there's no one magic bullet that can help really solve that complex issue. So it has to be through partnerships. And so when we think about how we build out those collective impact models, we think about 5 different things. And I'd say probably one of the most important is a common agenda up front. And that takes a long time to develop. That's about relationships. That's about understanding the different unique needs of each community that we're working with. Also, all of the assets that are already focusing and doing work in the community, all the resources that are there. So taking the time to develop a common agenda, make sure you're working towards the same goals. The second piece that I would say is what's really helpful is shared measurements. So once you have that common agenda, that can help set stage for what are those measurable outcomes, and outcomes is a key word there, that you can focus your energy on, so that when you're working towards the agenda together, you're actually measuring the right things at the end of the day that both say, okay, this is the baseline of where we're at up front, but also how do we know when we're actually making an impact? And I would say one of the hardest things on measuring that and the shared measurement, our outcome is increased consumption of produce. I can't go to everybody's house, nor should I, go to everybody's house and watch them eat the produce, right? But what we can do is try and find what are the equivalents that we can say, whether that's sales, whether that's greater access, whether that's greater enrollment in programs like SNAP and WIC. The third piece I'd say is mutually reinforcing activity. And I'll give an example here. This is about not dropping a program in. As a national nonprofit, not just coming and saying, here's a program that works, but trying to design that with the community, but also bring in things that we have learned from work with other communities. And also, we have an opportunity to try out some innovative things in communities. So we've talked a lot today about online grocery retail and how do we've done some work with Instacart to help bring in fresh funds to families that they can actually shop for and get the delivery and service fees reduced or eliminated over the course of 3 months. And so we see that families that have consistent access and the ability to get food delivered, they are more likely to say they want to continue eating more fruits and vegetables. And we've just recently added, thanks to Appy, who's in the room as well, a pilot where we're adding frozen to fresh and seeing what the results of that are. And then the next piece is continuous communication. That's not just about like having a regular phone call with all of the partners at the table in the community. It's about finding the spaces in communities where people are already gathering. So you're not adding one more thing, but then also finding places like this and others to raise the visibility of the work that's happening. And so continuous communication both amongst partners to help build those relationships, but then also after that, also lifting up and raising visibility. So the report that a lot of you have on the table, that's really important work to kind of highlight those case studies, because I can guarantee you there's like 10 or 15 I've already heard today I didn't know about. And I think you all hopefully can say the same. There's a lot of new things and new things you're going to want to check out either here or afterwards. Then the last piece is a backbone organization. And that's where I really see PHA's role is to help. How can we help weave together partners in cities, across the country, of all types, all sectors? It's important that every sector connects in on this work. And we like to think of it like, how do we create a flywheel? So it's not about trying to reinvent something. It's also not about a short-term fix. It's about how do you create that flywheel that hopefully runs of itself into the future. So hopefully that was a little helpful and not too long, Larry. But there you go.
Thank you. Very good stuff. Yael, you want to introduce yourself and tell us about?
Absolutely. Can you all hear me okay? Oh, thank you. All right. Partnering to get this all turned around here. So hi everyone. My name is Rial Carver. I am the program leader for the Rural Grocery Initiative. We are based out of Kansas State Research and Extension. So we work across the country. We really have a focus in Kansas, in the Midwest, in supporting locally owned rural grocery stores. But in our time, the last almost 2 decades, we've learned that a focus on supporting rural grocery is unique. And so we work all across the country to help small towns keep access to healthy food in their communities or think through ways to bring a grocery store back. And I would say when I think about kind of what partnership means for rural grocery, I would say that grocery and rural grocery in particular is not a monolith. It is something that is unique to the place. And we really heard this already today, that it's important to be engaging with the community that the grocery store is serving. And what that means from my perspective is that you're bringing in partners from all different sectors to support something that really can be an anchor institution in a community. It can be an anchor for other businesses in a community and an important place for people to access healthy food. It also can be an important economic driver in our small towns. And so we've seen really the gamut of partnerships to either get a store open or keep a grocery store open, from partnerships with school districts that have students learning the basics of running a grocery store, what it takes to stock the shelf, how to be thinking about customer service. We've seen nonprofit grocery stores, for-profit models, obviously cooperative. Something really unique that we have in Kansas is a municipally owned grocery store. So this is an example where the municipality, the local county or city government, has decided that this is such a need for our community, where people may not be moving here or they may be leaving because we don't have a grocery store. We need to do something about this. And so the grocery store is actually a part of their local budget. And they operate it almost like a water utility or a sewer utility. There's a line item in the annual budget for operating a grocery store. And the goal really isn't to make a profit. The goal is to provide a service. And in that example, there's some interesting benefits that can include grocery store employees being city employees, which means benefits, something that a lot of small town grocers and employees barely have. So it's something that doesn't work everywhere, but it's something where there are examples of it working. In Kansas, there's a store running under this model that's been in operation for over a decade, and it works for that community. And then the last thing I'd say about partnerships would be, we've seen a lot of public-private partnerships. So for new businesses, for new operators, it's costly to get into the grocery business. And so partnering with a local county, city, another business to kind of share the load. So a new entrepreneur that's taking over a business could operate the business, purchase all the inventory, but a partner would own and operate and maintain the building. And often we see that in the form of a city or a county government. And what's important there is that the city and county government has buy-in to have a grocery store in their community. And so if the operator leaves, the county is going to help find a new operator, and hopefully the barriers to entry are lowered by having the partnership in.
Great, thank you. Well, Yael, Chef Andre has already given us a pretty clean introduction and endorsement of the Healthy Corners program. But why don't you introduce yourself and give us a little bit more about what you guys are doing and how you using partnerships to gain that impact that he talked to us about.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. I think Jason said he teed me up a little here. My name is Yael Reichler. I'm the director for the Healthy Corners program at DC Central Kitchen. So I'll tell you a little bit about Healthy Corners first. We serve as a food hub. We distribute out to corner stores across DC. Right now we work with 58 locations. We work in support with the support of the DC Department of Health and USDA. We're able to have different benefits access programs for community members. So we do a SNAP match program where we're able to double people's SNAP towards produce. And we also work with DC WIC, where we have 11 WIC authorized locations, all corner stores, which is a new sort of piece here with DC WIC. So there's lots of partnerships that are like a part of that piece, right? And I think a key part of this is the fact that we function as a food hub. And I'm a huge food hub model advocate. So I would say that, yeah, the food hub model is something that I really think really is like the pinnacle of partnerships. And, you know, I actually see one of our store owners here today, Amanda, so it's great to see her, but we really cannot do this work without every piece, every stakeholder in our food hub system. So our store owners are key to really implementing the produce side of things, the benefits access program. And I also wanted to talk about the vendor piece. You know, for us, having a relationship with our vendors and with our farmers is a really essential part of our program. We have regular meetings with our farmers, monthly calendar invites that we're, you know, getting on a call, you know, making sure that they understand the updates of what's going on in our program, and they're able to tell us what's going on in their fields. We've had farmers and vendors come out to our corner stores so they can actually see their product in the store, something that usually they don't get to see. And that also gives us the chance to learn more about them and highlight them at the stores so that the consumer side can learn where their product is coming from. One example that comes to mind is we had a hydroponic facility that we were working with in Maryland. And they generously invited us to come see their facilities